Hello and welcome to the WOW Show, an hour full of stories from and for truck drivers on the road. We're going to have fun saying thank you for who you are and what you do as drivers. And we're going to talk to some people who know their stuff so that we can learn more. My name is David Binyachek. I'm your host. Let's get started.
Hi, my name is Jason Kosh, and this is my wife Jackie Kosh. This is our 2010 Peterbilt 389. It's got almost 3 million kilometers on it. It's never been repainted. It's all original paint, custom built by Stahl Peterbilt and many others. It took about 8 months for us to build the truck, and it sat at Stahl Peterbilt for that duration of the time. And ever since then, we've just kept it on the road, and we work it every day. So it makes regular weekly trips from Alberta to Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi back into Alberta. So hauling liquids for Liquids in Motion. The inspiration for the truck came from the bike here. It's a 2006 Pro 1 chopper that we custom built. And the paint scheme and everything that we did on the bike, we carried forward onto the truck and kept that going on there. So. And that was pretty much it. It's got a 550 Cummins in it and 355 rear ends with an 18 speed on air. Lots of custom work, painted interior, tons of painting on the exterior, all airbrushing. I really couldn't even begin to start listing all the stuff that's done to this truck. We got about 195,000 into it back in 2010. I don't know what today's value of it would be based on the current market, but I'm scared to think about it. So best thing to do is just keep it in good shape and keep it going. So God bless.
Good morning and welcome to the WOW Show. This is David here. Happy Monday to you. That interview with Jason and Jackie Kosh was in 2019 at the Let's Go Distributing Pro Show and Shine in the Edmonton, Alberta area. What an amazing couple. I mean, when you listen to them, you can just sense by the tone of their voice, and that's what you get on radio, that they're hardworking, that they're humble, that they're real, that they care about what they do. And I admire this couple. It's kind of a little bit of you may think a teaser that isn't fair, because as they talk about this beautiful truck and chopper that they've got matching, you're thinking, Dave, this is radio. I can't see it. What are you doing that to me for? But if you go to wowtrucks.com on the main page, where we'll post also the replay of this show once it's aired, you can immediately go and see just the beautiful red and then paint scheme that they have on their truck and matching on their chopper. That is what they call Redemption. That is the name of their truck. And it's absolutely beautiful. Again, was the cover in 2020, and you can go feast your eyes. The focus of today's show is going to be COVID. And how does this interview tie in? It ties in because a lot of times we care, but in life, whether it's in trucking or in elsewhere, you don't always get caring back, or you don't always sense that in return, people are giving you the caring that you're giving. One of our friends of WOW Trucks, major partners in doing what we do of this show and of the calendar over many years, NAL Insurance. We got together with Aaron from NAL and we hosted a WOW Show lounge where a few truckers came in and talked about their experiences during COVID. And you know what, like many events in the world, there's been many tragedies. I think, as it relates to trucking during this pandemic, the story is all too familiar. At the beginning, there's a rally of support. When you see a tragedy around the world rallies, it's in the news, you don't hear anything but that particular story. But in the weeks and the months that follow, it gradually fades. And while the need is still there and the situation is still real, it seems like no one cares anymore. And I don't know how life is for you during COVID. You will all have your each unique experience, but maybe some of you feel that way. And what I love about NAL is that they recognize the power of listening. I'm going to play you just segments from that lounge interview that we had with drivers so you can get some real life feedback. If you're a company that serves truckers, listen up. because they're talking about real life experiences on the road. And if you're a driver as well, here's the scoop. You might find your story in that story. And while I don't actually promise you that it provides any answers immediately, there is a benefit in just telling people how we feel, telling people what we're going through. It actually helps a lot in dealing with the stress and the isolation that this period has amplified in your lives and has made you the heroes that you are. I will say this before we head into letting you listen into the conversations that were had, that while it doesn't provide answers, when we come back from listening to the conversations, I want to end the show by talking about some choices that you absolutely do have in this situation. I'm a big believer that in life, there's many things that we don't control, and that's all too real in this time period. There isn't much that we control around this pandemic. But life gets sweet and life gets grand when we control what we do control, to have influence on what we don't. And I think that's a concept, whether it's during this pandemic and COVID, or just for some of the general woes of the industry, that is a powerful concept to drive home. So listen up. Here's the conversation that we hosted in the Wow Show Lounge, driven by Aaron Lindsay at NAL Insurance. Thank you, Aaron. With a few drivers sharing their experiences about what life on the road has been like and is like during this pandemic. And at the end, we're going to wrap it up by talking about what are the choices that you have to start to drive some positive change, to make conditions better, and just kind of ease some of the stress and other things that have been kind of launched on you during this time period. Here we go. Thanks for being part of this. And I introduced to most of you, Aaron, with NAL Insurance, and they've been cool they've made without them, the calendar wouldn't have been possible for 15 years. And so they've been an awesome support to telling that story, and they're an awesome support to the industry. So Aaron, why don't you, like tonight is about your experience in COVID, and it's probably going to be a little bit different for each of you, but some common trends. Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself more and talk about just, the chat we're going to have tonight.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. Can everyone hear me there?
No, yeah, on and clear.
Yeah, that's awesome. Our parent company, NAL Insurance, we've been a sponsor of the calendar for a while now, and it's pretty cool. We're based out east here, London, Ontario, and the fact that we usually buy all these calendars and give them out to our clients. We love to showcase owner operators, nice trucks, guys who've invested a lot of hard work and time and money in their business. So, thanks for allowing us to be a sponsor of that. And what we're specifically talking about today is we ran a program last year called Thank a Trucker. And the reason why we started it was right at the end of March there, we were talking to a lot of drivers, and we heard that there was a lot of hardship on the roads there, just trying to find hot meals, washroom facilities and stuff like that. So what we did, we have an office at the TA truck stop out here, and we asked them if we could come out and just serve some burgers and pizza and stuff and provide some meals, as well as we were able to get our hands on some personal protective equipment. So hand sanitizer, gloves, stuff like that, just the necessities that drivers need. So we started in April, went all the way to September, hit the TA truck stop, Flying J, a bunch of other truck stops. In total, we were able to serve up about 1,200 meals, 1,200 PPE kits for drivers. And for us, it was fun being able to give something back. But most importantly, the best part was to actually say thank you and shake guys' hands who were working hard while most of us were at home. You guys were putting your lives at risk, no questions asked, and just to hear a lot of the stories out there of some of the stuff, both good and the bad, that drivers were going through. So the reason why I'm here tonight is I'd love to get your feedback. One of the big thing that we like to do at Thank a Trucker is to raise awareness. Again, both good and bad stuff that drivers face while on the road. Because, me, myself, I'm not out on the road all the time. So, everyone paints this certain picture of drivers and what they go through, but it's so good to hear it from a person who's actually doing it. So I was just wondering if anyone could comment on their experience over the past year, from when that first wave of COVID hit to, what's going on right now.
Yeah, and I'll actually, like Travis and you and I were talking earlier, and you've got some cool things. There was some good and bad to this year. And by the way, nice lighting, man. It matches your cap. So
Not
that's
done.
awesome.
Not done yet.
That's awesome. Travis, tell about this past year in COVID. Talk about it.
Well, like I said, it's been up and down. But yeah, like I said, there's been a lot of bad stuff happening with this COVID. I know when I was back pulling hoppers, back in the springtime there, we had a few gigs out in Saskatchewan we were bidding on, and I couldn't go to the plants because I didn't have the call or the training for it, or the orientation was up to date. They wouldn't let you in. So basically we had to give up work, and you're sitting at home trying to figure out how to do these online, and no one really at that beginning of it weren't going to do the online training. So you had to wait till basically, I don't know, a few months down the road after, and then they started doing online courses you had to do before you even showed up to site. But if you didn't have a computer, half the stuff never even loaded on your phone.
Wow.
So, and then if you had to get parts ordered or you name it, always the excuse is, well, COVID, it didn't get built or delayed because of COVID. It's a joke in the one sense.
And we were chatting about that. I don't know about you guys. I've got a friend who it's not related to trucking, but he sold his house and he's building a new house. And they're forecasting that by the summer of this year, there will be no 2x6 wood available in North America. And so the cost of his lumber tripled overnight. And in building his home, and I'm hearing that in the trucking industry, Peterbilts are, you order a new truck, you're not getting it until October, November of this year. Are you guys hearing the same things?
Buddy of mine, he ordered one, I think the 12th of December, I think something like that. And they said it should land in Calgary in the middle of the month. And he sold his other truck, and now he's driving his grandfather's truck. And he's just basically playing a waiting game for his new one to show up. So basically, I don't know what to say about it anymore, to be honest. It's a joke.
Yeah, you've got to order early and wait a long time. Rafi, what's going on with you? Oh, go ahead. So who said something?
Oh, I was just wanted to ask Travis, from a health standpoint, when COVID first hit last year, and there was so much uncertainty, and everyone is like, okay, well, we got to have the drivers out to deliver the essential goods. Did you face any fear going out there, going to customers, or coming back home? What were your feelings?
The only fear that I had is, like I said, I live on the road 5 days a week. Yeah, so it's hard to get a meal, like I said, decent meal. Like I like to get out of the truck. And it didn't really bother me wise. It was more when I went home. I live, like I said, with my grandfather. He's turns 85 here in August and still driving. So yeah, that fear coming home with if I had something, I really didn't want to bring it back to him. So basically I just stayed away as much as I could. I just kept working anything I could find, I was working, or I was out camping all summer long, basically, just because I didn't want to be really around just because of that issue. But for me, it doesn't bug me. Like, I smoke off and on, I guess. So if you cough, then everyone starts looking at you funny, or you get tested every place you go to, your temperature tested, and you could be in that plant 4 times that same date, but every single time you've been in there, you have to get tested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot.
Did anyone see any different treatment? Some of the stories that we heard from drivers at the truck stop is that, you know, there was certain treatment for, you know, the customer's employees, but then you as a, you know, a driver or, you know, a contractor coming into a shipper's yard or something, there was, you know, different treatment for, you know, washroom facilities and stuff like that. Did anyone see anything like that when they were out?
I don't know, everybody else has got different stories, I guess, but
Depends on where you're at. You know,
that's the biggest thing.
for me, with this, like our head office where we pick our trailers up all the time, we can't even go into the warehouse to pick up our paperwork or nothing. It was locked down so tight that we had to phone the forklift guys to bring our paperwork out to us if they'd forgot to throw it out in the trailers for us. And we'd end up waiting, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour just to get friggin' paperwork so we could get down the road. So it was, and even some of the facilities that we pick up at, you know, the one store we pick up to take back to the warehouse, we can't even go in the door. You have to phone from outside in your truck. You phone ahead, tell you what dock you're going into, you back into it, you phone ahead, tell them it's there. They ask you for your pickup numbers and all that stuff. And then they'd load you, come out, and then they'd hand you your paperwork through a freaking slot in the door.
Wow.
Wow, is right.
Well, like I said, what's that?
No, go ahead, Travis.
Like I know, like I said, that we're kind of the same. We've had that kind of off and on, I guess. I know back when I know a couple of my own, when I build out some of my own stuff wise, when I wasn't pulling for other guys, some of the companies you had to get an employee signature or whatever on the paperwork if you didn't have a signature on the bill. Basically it was for them, they didn't have to pay it, or they take 90 days or whatever to pay because of no signature. So now when COVID kicked in, how do you get a signature from these people to get paid? And we fought like hell to get, like, I said, what's this? I can't get a signature because you guys won't sign it, or you gotta take pictures of your paperwork and send it to everybody. And it's just like, this is stupid. Like, and then, well, we didn't get a text message, or the email didn't come through, and that was 2 weeks later, and you got to try to figure out what you did 2 weeks ago, and it's just like, really? It's stupid.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk in the beginning when, again, a lot of us were home and drivers, you guys were considered essential workers, and everyone was saying thank you. Did you feel that you were being considered essential and treated as an essential worker? And do you still feel that way right now?
For once, it was actually, you know, it was nice to thank you for doing what you guys do and everything else. And that basically the first few months, I guess, it wasn't really there, and then it started, I guess. Now it's back to square one as usual. We don't need truck drivers. We just go to the grocery store and it's already there. So basically now, as like I said, we're a nobody now, is what I'm trying to get the point, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We heard that a lot. There were a number of guys who are saying we went from zero to hero, then back to zero. And, you know, people don't understand everything that you guys do and all that hard work. And, you know, that's part of the reason why, you know, our job's to raise awareness to, you know, so that you guys are always considered essential, and, you know, people have that respect for you out on the road.
Yeah. Now, Mike, you were trying to say something, but you're muted. So if you can tap your volume button on your phone, we didn't hear you. And then I know you were trying to say something. So I'm going to ask to unmute you. And so you should get a prompt, and you can just hit the prompt. And there we go. What were you going to say, Mike? I heard you trying to talk.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, great.
what I was going to say, probably ask the question first. Define an essential worker.
Yep.
How do
Can
we,
you
how
do
do
it?
we define
Yeah, how do you define an essential worker?
an essential worker?
Yeah.
Well, I think, during COVID, we looked at, essential workers are, people that need to provide us goods to live, right? Like it needs to, those people need to be there for just the basic necessities for everyone to live. So if, you work in, a hair salon or something like that, that's not really a basic necessity. So, they weren't considered essential workers, but drivers were. That's just my definition.
Okay, so then if we were defined essential workers, were we defined essential workers for convenience?
Yes, for the convenience of the others.
Now
Yeah.
let me put something in perspective and ask you this. When this COVID thing hit and our right honorable prime minister declared us as essential workers after about 6 weeks after it happened, what we experienced, what I experienced running from Vancouver to Toronto and to Quebec was nothing short of isolation, prejudice, and labeling. Okay, that's what I experienced. Not only in Western Canada, but Eastern Canada as well, and every point in between, particularly in Northern Ontario. Okay, so, I don't like that phrase essential worker, because if I was an essential worker, then I'd have to ask myself, why was I denied restrooms? Why was I denied access to a Petro-Canada or access to a Flying J? Denied access to a dock. And just what I experienced was just, being treated as subhuman. And I kind of threw my hands up in the air and just said, all right, I will just ride it through and see what happens. And the biggest thing about it was the sense of isolation. Nobody wanted to talk to anybody. Everybody wore masks. Everybody made a big deal of walking 10 feet away from you and apologizing if they came any closer to you, and it was, I think it was a good reason to, a good alibi for a lot of companies to just up their prices, because the price of everything went up. The price of fuel went up. The price of things in convenience stores went up. And a lot of it, I'm sorry, a lot of the price increases were not necessary. And it's just like, for me and probably thousands of other guys out here, we just got basically kicked in the nuts, if you would take a look at that. And as well, insurance rates went up.
Yep.
So I don't know if it was just not a good thing to happen, and everything went up in price. People just treated with others with disrespect. And I don't know if I know the virus was serious and so on. I got my mask and so on, but it almost seemed like a way to restructure the economy, in a sense, where everybody, we take a bunch of businesses out and so on. And I'm not happy with it. So, I mean, I don't know if it made any sense there, but you asked what I experienced, and that's what I experienced.
Yeah, no, that 100%. Like when we were having chats with other guys, it was disheartening to hear that, we were using that label essential worker, but yet we couldn't provide you guys with essential services like, food, restaurants, washrooms, showers, all that stuff while on the road. And yeah, it was, I do see how it could have been just more or less a label that people used for a short period of time, but yet no one really did the things necessary to treat you as an essential worker.
What does an essential worker need to be treated like? I think everybody in this meeting and everybody out on the road who does this job, all they basically want is a little bit of respect. They want a washroom facility when they need it. They want to be able to sit down somewhere and eat if they want to sit down somewhere and eat, and go about doing the task at hand. Right? A lot of that did not happen. I think the worst province for it all was just had to be Ontario. I think people were, they were reacting to it. So I mean, that's the biggest thing, was just a great deal of lack of respect. And it's not that we're waving flags and saying, here I am, I'm a trucker, I'm an essential worker, roll out the red carpet. Just decent human respect is what I think anybody out on the road wanted. And because a lot of guys weren't getting that, a lot of guys were getting frustrated, and a lot of guys were taking it out on each other. And that's the downside of it. That's the downside of this whole COVID epidemic that I saw out there anyway. And it's pretty sad.
And Mike, well, go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's sad to hear that that's happening. I think it's also happening in every sector of society. The violent crimes in Calgary, I don't recognize my city these days. And it has a lot to do with, it's not even trucking related, but the violent crimes that are happening are not traditional in our city. And this environment of isolation and this environment of not being able to get close to people and shoving people apart is impacting every part of our society.
Yeah, people are by nature sociable people.
Yeah.
People like to hug, for who or whatever, right? People like to see each other's smile, right? All we get to see is something from here up. All we get to do is judge from the eyes up, from the nose up. We miss half the body language. And it's sad, because everybody that you're talking to has got half their face covered up. And it is playing a toll. It is putting a toll on people's ability to socialize. And I think what you've seen in the past and what you're seeing now is the ramifications of that. And frankly, myself, over this last year and a half, I am worn out and I am tired of this.
Absolutely.
I'm getting
why my trucks have all been sold.
I'm getting fed up with walking into some place and finding that a loaf of bread is costing $5. I'm getting tired of seeing prices rise, drivers on the road pissed off at each other, law enforcement just being in a dirty, rotten mood every time you show up somewhere. It's ridiculous. I think it's the negligence of, it's the lack of that social connection that people have. You want feedback from drivers, you're getting feedback from drivers. What's the purpose of NAL in these little forums like this? Like, what is it you're hoping to accomplish?
I think it's just to get that, honest feedback, because you're right. Most of the days I sit in front of a computer and I just look at spreadsheets. And it's important to always stay in touch with your customers, understand what they're going through, and things exactly like you're saying is, like cost is a factor. So our insurance, we don't do the property and liability. So we don't do that. We're more on the health side. But we understand that costs are rising. So, things that we have to do to try to prevent that going forward for our clients, understand all these issues that are happening. And, we always say we'd like to be there and be more than just an insurance provider. So we insure most people out east here in Ontario. So we provide an owner operator disability insurance. So
Mhm.
out in Ontario, a lot of guys opt out of workers' comp to buy a program like ours, which is a lot more cost effective. But we've definitely seen a lot of guys get hurt on the primary insurance side because so many major players are pulling out, not just due to COVID, but there's these massive nuclear verdicts now that any one claim can just ruin a company if it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And when all these insurers pull out, now we're seeing guys facing massive increases. Deductible used to be $5,000 are now $25,000 and $50,000 for single owner operators. It's absolutely crazy. And I think with this forum, we see a lot of change, and I think it's important for us to just touch base to try to understand as best as we can, what you guys are facing and what your perspective is on it.
Rafi, you've been nodding through this. What's COVID
Kind
look
of.
like for you?
Well, Mike has hit some point like spot on. We were considered essentials, but based in the last year, what I have experienced by running mostly northern BC, all the way from Prince George to Stewart, I'm gonna say, were nothing but the bad apples out there. I couldn't sour, I couldn't get food, and if I wanted to use a washroom, there were stops that I legitimately had to use a porta potty that hasn't been cleaned for over 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
So how in the possible world I'm considered essential, carrying goods and stuff, freight or whatever you wanna call it, food, lumber, anything, but I cannot have the essential needs of a human being to be healthy and clean.
Yeah.
I am against on microwave and inverters in the truck. I do believe a driver needs to get out twice a day and eat a lunch and a hot meal for dinner.
Yes.
If I cannot afford to do that as a commercial driver, I am not going to drive for this company. If I don't have the time to do that as a commercial driver, I'm not going to drive for this company. I had to go and install inverter, a microwave, and a coffee pot in my truck. Why? Not because I wanted, because I can't get food. How is my health gonna go when I cannot actually eat a proper hot meal and I have to eat canned food 7 days a week, twice 2 meals a day? Because how many cooked meals am I gonna get when I'm 20 days on the road? I have like 1x2 little cooler, which is gonna get maybe 5 or 6 Tupperware in it.
Yep.
So then you're eating pre-made food, which is nothing but unhealthy.
Right.
So in my opinion, and in my experience in the last year, we were good people when we're needed. When everything ran out, we were needed, we were good people, and people were thanking us in all the 9 yards. Yeah, we were nothing but the bad sheep out there.
Yeah.
I honestly felt
we were there.
Yeah, I felt more discriminated through COVID than any other time because I have been refused a shower.
Yeah.
I have been refused the bathroom. And when they saw me with the toilet paper running in the back 40, they were calling me an a-hole. I'm like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? You don't allow me to use the bathroom. I need to go. It's an actual essential need. So when you're refusing me to use your bathroom, when I just delivered here or just, stopped and got fuel from your station, what do you expect me to do? How am I expected to be able to do what I'm doing on a daily basis, stay healthy, when I cannot have a shower to clean myself and I have to go 6-7 days without a shower? And then I cannot even buy baby wipes to clean myself.
Aaron, is this the kind of feedback you've been looking for?
Yeah, Yeah, no, this is, I said, we want the good and the bad. And I like the way that you put it, Mike, is that it was a label and it actually was almost the opposite. What you guys are saying is, we said you're essential workers, but you were actually treated worse during that time during COVID than any other time.
Well, Mike, before Aaron, before COVID, I could stop and buy a sandwich, or I could stop and have a hot meal during the day. I was specifically told in Kitwanga that I wasn't wanted in their store. When I stopped to get, and I fueled up every second day because I was running from Stewart to Prince George for about a month and a half. And I was legitimately almost kicked out of the store. And they told me, you can use the porta potty outside. And when I went outside, I was like, that porta potty hasn't been cleaned for over 2 weeks. You can go and use it. And then when I told them I'm never going to stop again, I never stopped again. I stopped at Smithers. And I have to give a lot of credit for A&W being one of the very first places that they would actually even, when everything was completely locked down, was one of the very first places allowing us to order through the drive-through. I had a really bad experience in Wainwright with people discriminating me by walking on the drive-through when it was 11:30 at night and I had just offloaded rail equipment from the company I was working for. I stopped working at 11:30 at night. I haven't had anything to eat all day because I was pushed and rushed to finish the day, to finish the job. And then when I go to eat, the only place open at 11:30 is McDonald's. How am I going to order? Through the drive-through. So I'm waiting in line properly. And people were looking at me like, what are you doing? Well, I want to eat. Where is your car? Well, it doesn't fit. Why it doesn't fit? I was like, well, I can make it fit, but your drive-through won't be the same anymore.
Aaron,
Yep.
this is one thing that anybody driving a truck experienced, okay, and I'm going to use the word segregation.
Mhm.
This is what happened to us at a lot of these drive-throughs, at the McDonald's, at the Tim Hortons, and so on and so forth. We would drive, whatever, 3-4 hours, something like that, and we couldn't get a coffee. They wouldn't let us in the store. Okay, and McDonald's was bad for that. Tim Hortons was bad for that. We were actually refused service.
Yes, more than
Don't forget-
once.
more than once. And that I equate that, Aaron, to what blacks were facing in the 60s in Alabama. You got to sit over here, you got to do this, you got to do that, but you can't come up here with the white people. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You want us to be essential, you classify us as essential workers, and then you treat us like this. Like, give me a break. I'm going to say one thing though before we get too negative here. Okay, one saving grace about this, okay, that came up in the last few weeks, okay, is David's show, Wow Trucks, okay, because David is putting content out there on his show that is positive, and I haven't seen the likes of it anywhere on any show before. Okay, David is putting things out there about perspectives of problems, how we look at them, how somebody else looks at them, and so on and so forth. And David's show has been very, very positive. And that's one thing I'm going to say is thank God for this Wow show, because it helps pick you up in the daytime with the content that he has on it. Okay, and it's one of the very, very few things that I've seen good come out of this industry in this last year with this COVID.
Can I ask a question, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to ask how much, or has it even improved for you guys that are on the road all the time? I'm not on the road all the time. My specialized hauling has been cut back to less than a week a month over the last year. Isn't that nice? Anyway, are you guys still seeing the Well, lousy services on the road when you're doing long haul like Mike and rest of you guys, are you still seeing a difficult time in the last couple of months, or anything opening up for you at all on the road?
Depends where you
like I said,
travel.
yeah, that's the biggest thing. It just depends on where you're traveling. Like there is a few places that are still opening and you can actually go in and actually eat at. But really it all depends on the franchise, really, because there is some A&Ws that you can go in and walk inside and order food, but you can't sit. I know for a fact 2 weeks ago, Airdrie KFC, I know you could go in there and order food, but you couldn't sit. And I was in there last night and you can sit there. They got a couple spots you can sit now. So, like I said, it just depends on the franchise in one sense.
Well, there's no truck parking at those places, at a lot of
Well,
those
no,
No.
but it's still somewhere else to eat or quickly, like you said, late night running. Quickly grab someone quick to carry on down the road and carry on. It is pretty sad that the liquor stores are open later than most coffee shops or restaurants. Penholds like that. I think Burger King closes at 9, and so does Tim Hortons. I think the liquor store is still open till 11. So,
Well, I'll say it like that. If by any chance you're running the graveyard shift, pack lunch with you because you're not gonna stay hungry otherwise.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If
But you
don't
also
pack
got to
lunch-
take into.
Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead,
Nelly.
Raf.
No.
Well, I'm just saying there's a lot of people out there too that I know when I was running up into Dawson and Grand Prairie, High Prairie, all that stuff there was places you could stop that would, little mom and pop places that were still open because they still figured that we needed places. Like the Cornishes were up there when I was up there when COVID hit the first time. You couldn't get anything anywhere, and Dean and Alicia and Wendy are awesome folks up there. They did wonderful things. They would bring coffee and bread and stuff like that to you guys wherever we were parked, and offer showers and stuff like that if you were stuck up there for days at a time, or get stuck up in the snowstorm that a few of us have been caught up in there. And then down south, there's been places down in Lethbridge where I travel. I know some old families down there. They put the word out that if you guys need a shower or hot meal, just pull in. Their yards were big enough for everybody to pull in and come in, get a hot meal and a shower. They didn't care. They knew we had to keep moving and keep going. So the people that offered that also need recognition for when this shit come through, that they stepped up and took the reins to give us that ability to have the essentials of a hot meal, those places to sit down, a shower, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Aaron, I think I'm curious to know, and it may take yet another year, 2 years, just to see what the statistics are of how well the health of people are doing, 2 years down the road from this, people in the trucking industry. I think it's going to play a factor, and we're here talking about, what we've experienced through this. My question is this too, and some of you may not care, but look at the people on the margin there, these new guys who come into Canada to experience this type of thing, whether it's wherever they come from. I think they're probably having a harder time too, because they've got the racial card to deal with as well. So I think with this COVID and everything happening, I think things are not pretty living out on the road for a lot of people. And I think to some degree, I think there's going to be a day of reckoning coming in some way. And I don't mean, a big shutdown and a protest. I just think there's going to come a day where the supply chain sector is going to feel the results of this. You drop a stone into a pond, and then you get the ripple effect. And I think that day is still going to come. I don't know how, but I think it is. I think you're going to see people getting out of the industry. I think you're going to see driver shortages to a certain degree because guys are just getting fed up with this, you know, especially the guys my age who are, you know, 45 and up. And I just, because you have to ask yourself, why would you put yourself through this? You know, and I think you're going to see there's going to be some kind of effect happening here in the next 2 to 5 years because of this.
Yeah. We one thing that we've seen on our side is when we work pretty much solely in the trucking industry, and on our one of our products is critical illness insurance, and our claims rate is like 3 times higher than other occupations. And you know, we attribute that to the lifestyle, right? Like there's not a lot of healthy options out there for you while you're on the road. You know, we're talking about a lot of different fast food options, but there's not a lot of opportunity for activity because you guys are working such long hours. And, you know, that's one of the things in the industry that, you know, we try to get out there, that it's, you know, this lifestyle is tough, right? It's not the healthiest. You know, the isolation piece that you're talking about too as well, you know, that does take a toll on you mentally too as well. And I think that's not going to just be within trucking, but, you know, everyone who's been in isolation for this long period of time now, it's going to have an impact on lots of different occupations and lots of youth too as well, who've you know, been isolated from friends, school, all that for a long time. So from the health side, we see a lot of other factors that play a really big role in, you know, how many drivers are going to still be in this industry 10 years down the road. You know, if we can't provide not just the essentials, but also like a healthy lifestyle, that's a big thing that we see on our side.
We have to, it's up to each individual, whether they're driving a truck or whether they're working in an office, to be responsible for their health. I understand that, right? But you know, a lot of guys, they're pushed to the clock. They don't want to, right? I know e-logs are going to change that come June across this country. They're going to change it big time. And there's a lot of things coming down the pipe with this COVID and with the introduction of e-logs that is going to be a real game changer.
Yeah. What are the big impacts that you see with the e-logs?
Guys
right now,
guys
myself,
are actually getting rushed.
Yeah, guys are getting rushed to do what they need to do in that, you know, 16-hour span, especially if you're doing LTL, you know, and particularly if it's food. And there's companies out there now that are still scratching their head trying to figure out how to do it. And you know, they're going to have to change their ways, because to drive from Toronto with a trailer load of LTL to get to Winnipeg 6 o'clock Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and do 5 deliveries in Winnipeg and then be in Regina for you know, Sunday night, even with the weather, it's a push. And they're not going to be able to do it. And a lot of guys who handle the LTL stuff they're going to be in for, you know, a big surprise. And it's just those type of companies that do that type of work. They're going to have to, shippers and receivers are going to have to be forced to deal with it. They know you're not getting your stuff Sunday morning. You're going to get your stuff Sunday evening. And then shipping hours are going to have to be changed, and if not, drivers are going to have to be laid over extra half a days or things like that, right? And who's going to pay the driver to lay over. The company is. Will that increase the costs to the company? How's the company going to pick up the costs of that? Well, they got to put it on the freight rate. And then if the customer doesn't want to pay the freight rate, you know, the demurrage for that, then you've got this vicious circle where guys end up undercutting each other. The customer goes to a cheaper carrier. You know, this is what's going to happen. This is the reality of this. You know, it's been going on for a while now. When they introduced e-logs for companies that run to the US and Canada, and once it becomes,
I've been on them.
one thing I will say is you get your sleep.
Yeah.
I've been on e-log.
Right. Go ahead, Kelly. Yep.
We started running ours here last year as the boss just threw them in there because he knew something was coming down the pipe, right? I'm a fan of old school trucking. I was brought up that way. The e-logs do have beneficial things, but on the backside, like if I stopped at my shop today for 4 hours to help a friend out, my truck went in and got service. That e-log was chewing away. No matter which way I placed it on the freaking e-log, it's chewing me down. Now I've got exactly an hour and 45 minutes to go, and I've got 2 hours to go, yet still to get to Vermilion. So I can't stop for the 4 hours, and that's where don't like it. I like stopping for, you know, half hour, 45 minutes to, you know, run into friends and have a coffee and shoot the crap and do whatever. But when you're chasing this e-log, it kind of kills the mood. And that's the other part where the interaction doesn't come in, because, you know, we can all talk on this or on the CB or on the big radios or on the phones, but it's the personal connection that you have that kind of keeps everybody going. With these e-logs, like I said, I'm being pushed right now to get there by a certain time because I know our stores unload at a certain time. So I have to have that 8 to 10 hours off just to justify me to start my morning off so I can get to my next drop the next day. It's getting, the restrictions on these e-logs are getting, how you say, out of control. And it's to the point, like, I don't like a computer telling me when I can drive, when I can't drive. And like Mike said, you do get your sleep. Don't get me wrong. You got to take that 8 hours off here regardless. I don't sleep 8 hours, but the little book tells me I am. So it depends on how it's set up and what you run and where you run and what you're hauling are going to be your catalyst on everything that's going to make this an advantage or a disadvantage to you.
When that e-log first came into effect, basically it was designed, when it first started, was basically for guys that were pin to pin for the full long haul. The province, basically, when you're, as myself, as I'm provincial, I don't run e-log, but I run it off my phone. There's days that I can run, basically I run it right to a T, and then there is days that, yeah, okay, we'll put that aside and we'll just carry on because we'll figure it out the next day. Like Kelly said, great example is me and Kelly want to stop a few times for dinner. Well, it's quickly scarf food down, and then he's carrying on down the road. Well, how safe is that? Or if you're not feeling too well, the weather changes, so you get a headache halfway through your drive, so you pull over for an hour nap, just to where you'll just carry on after. You'll just get, instead of your logs are supposed to be parked by 7 o'clock tonight wise. But since you parked, you had that hour off, you're just going to carry in another hour just to gain back that extra hour you parked. Well, that e-log, you can't.
Actually, let me interrupt into that one. I think you guys need to go back and read a little bit your hours of service rules. The e-log is not the enemy. We are our own worst enemy. We as drivers, supposedly professionals, we are our own worst enemy. We are all. So I've run an e-log, and I'm running an e-log on my 99 as well right now, and I run a proper e-log. If you run the e-log properly, you can run your 14 hours a day. because there are ways you can pull over to have a nap. Yes, you can. You have to have more than 2 hours consecutive sleeper berth though, so it won't affect your hours of operation per day. Which means if you have 2.5 or 3 hours of a sleeper berth, you can go back to work, but then you still have to get your 8 hours of duty. So it's up to us to learn the legislation and learn how to work properly with the e-log. On
Can
top of
I,
that, when all these shippers are trying to rush loads, all that is going to have to change. Europe went through that back in early 2000s when they officially started the first generation of e-logs. When they first started the e-logs, they had a 75% shortage of trucks. 75% shortage of trucks between 2000 and 2006. That was across Europe.
can I interject here for a second? I'd like to get David's perspective, because David's the photographer, and he has a way of perceiving through a different eye. We're out here so deep into this. I'd like to get David's perspective on this, if I can.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm the photographer and I'm the whatever, but here's my perspective is that, I mean, change, the first reaction to change for all of us, no matter what it is in our life, e-log or, moving or job change, or it's resistance and not feeling great. And I think forums like this need to happen in the community of drivers. So you share your stories, because when we're frustrated, we only see we're blinded by our frustration. And we only see what we see. And the more we focus on it, the more it becomes, reality. And so just to hear the different, stories of drivers approaching it differently and maybe managing some of the pitfalls and turning them around, that's going to be the key. Is like we look at change and we all, our first reaction usually isn't good. It's doomsday. And we need those stories of people that have managed it, made it the new normal, and made it 5 years from now the good old way that we used to do things, to be able to turn things around. So yeah, I like this. I like it. It's good to say you're frustrated. Like, that's just healthy. It doesn't keep it inside of you. And then it's good to hear stories from people that have said, well, you know what, my experience is this, and maybe it's not all that bad. And then that's how we learn from each other. Like, that's, I love this discussion. It's really good.
Dialogue leads to solutions, right?
Yep.
And this at one time here was classified as a brotherhood. I don't know if it is, if it was, but it's a competition now. It's a competition to who can do the biggest load for the cheapest rate, for the least amount of money. And with this COVID thing that hit, it's not a nice place to be out here.
Well, the worst part is on top of it, it's not just because of COVID. It's been across the board the last how many I've been in it for. I've owned a truck for, I guess this is my second one, I guess, but I've had my license for 6 years. I've known previous with my uncles and my father, Gramps wise, they've been rate cutting since day one. It don't matter. It's whoever can get the cheapest. To say, if farmers are all the same way. We get it every day. Well, this guy will do it for this price. Okay, well, have fun. We don't understand how you guys can operate at that. I won't even turn the key on for it.
Yeah. Can I tell you this, to that point, is that service always does provide an edge. And I shouldn't say always, but if you stick to your guns like you did, Travis, I just remember Jerry Hare here in Calgary with 30 things.
Yeah.
He would, if he had on-time service delivery 100% for Cargill across North America for 2 years running, and they've got plants all over the continent. If a load was in danger of being late, it was not all that often, but he would fly someone somewhere to make sure it got delivered. And as a consequence, did he have to move his rates as the rates moved up and down? Yes, but was he subject to? Because no headaches is worth something to the customer. And not having to worry is worth something to the customer. And he stood up with it. And it was interesting as he sold the company to someone much larger. He ended up, he had better costs. Like just that attitude gave him success across his business. And so good on you, to Travis. I call it the union of one. And I think you have to be willing to stand up and say, at this point, I will not do it. And
Can I chime in, David?
Yeah.
On as far as this rate stuff, it used to mean certain things to certain people, but unfortunately, the industry now is full of people that are taking kickbacks. And I've seen it and I've experienced it, and I know that's a fact. So you get guys in the right place in the right office, they'll accept a lower bid, even if it's on a couple of dollars an hour. It works out it's to their benefit at the end of the month because they're getting an envelope full of money.
Oh wow!
So, and that's a fact.
Well,
and that's how a lot of these new companies get started out on a lot of these contracts. It's not just a low mileage bid or a low hourly bid when it comes to excavation work or anything else. It's the greasing of the palms. And that's another thing that's been happening forever. Rate cutting is nothing new.
No.
Yeah. No, rate cutting exists for ages, guys.
That's Aaron. Right. Exactly, Rafi.
Yep. The thing that has been really popular, and it's almost like a fashion the last few years that I've been noticing, is big carriers being able to have their own insurance, which their statistics of their wrecks, they are calculated within the insurance board, but you and me are paying the higher insurance rates, including myself as a newer owner operator. Even as a company hand, my companies were paying higher insurance rates because they couldn't have their own insurance companies. But these companies, they have their own insurance companies, so they have their own policies with their own rates. So it's pretty much another way for a tax write-off. So that's another thing that how is it even possible? How can you insure your own self and pretty much wreck everybody else's insurance rate because you have a higher end of accidents?
That's where these companies get away with these major accidents that are self-insured because they pay it out in cash.
That's also the companies
and that's how they do it.
Cutting the rates. These are the companies that they're cutting the rates out there. These are the companies that they have made the van.
You guys are just learning this stuff now.
Hey, I'm one of the youngest ones out here, so.
Well, I experienced that back home. I experienced that how.
None of this is new, you guys. Where's that George Cooper?
He's calling me out, Gordy.
Well, I've been a owner operator and now for 40 years, but my situation's no different from you guys. I don't self-insure. My rates go up. My work's down to 5 days a week, because 5 days a month, I should say. Yeah, not 5 days a week. I wish it was here still, but 5 days a month. And it's because I won't cut my rates, but I do have a handful of dedicated customers that rely on my service. So I guess I'm getting ready to, or at the point of slowing down. I'm not like Mike there pounding the miles all over Canada. I really admire you guys for sticking with it. Mike, especially with the type of operation that you run across the continent, and especially during COVID. But I don't have to experience so much of that now that I'm down to a week a month. But I feel for you guys that got to be out there all the time. I don't know if I still had to run 4 or 5 trucks, like I did, up until about 3-4 years ago. I'd be pulling my hair out. I don't have much left, but by golly, it'd be a lot tougher.
When did you see?
Gord, I'll help you out. I got the longer hair here, so I'm due for a haircut. I guess. Hold on a second. I guess, yeah. I guess we can get a haircut one of these days. I can ship you some hair if you need.
Is it in the budget, Travis? Is it in the budget now? Can we afford it? Because the way everything is going, we won't be even able to afford a haircut.
Give
Yeah.
yourself another 30 years, boys. Give yourself not even that, another 20 years. You'll be, you know,
I have to
creating
hit
better
30
wearing
first, so
the hat.
I gotta get there first.
Can I just put a plug in for the best haircut deal in North America? If you're driving through State College, Pennsylvania, there's I think it's just called Men's Hairstyling, and it's by the University of Pennsylvania. I was in town and I had some free time and I needed a haircut, and so I went in, and for $17 American, you got a haircut, you got a hot shave, and you got a pint of their local beer. And,
Shit, that's a hell of a deal.
That's a
Can we
plan.
can we
It was
find
like-
that in Alberta? Because I'm kind of due for one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need one too. Yeah.
I
definitely
don't
need one.
think I can go with the mullet idea yet. Yeah.
Too funny. So let's plan a reunion sometime in State College, Pennsylvania. It's beautiful country, and $17 for a cut, hot shave, and beer, which you don't get anywhere else. Aaron, I mean, this has been awesome, and we've been at it almost for an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4. Aaron, any questions? Any other questions that you have for these guys in terms of just feedback that you'd like to get?
No, I think it was a really good discussion. I learned a lot on my end, getting some, candid feedback from you guys. I love, the positive and the, constructive criticism. And, part of the project that we do with Thank a Trucker is we do have a lot of sponsors. So, as a token of appreciation, I want to send you guys a gift card. Next time it'll be to A&W. It won't be to Timmy's.
Hey, you gotta have coffee.
And
You should see Kelly in the morning when he doesn't have coffee. Yeah. Or
Hey,
talk to him on the
hey,
phone.
hey,
You better be a
no,
problem.
no.
He's a little bit cranky.
Yeah, you better be across the border, or he's ready to kill you through the phone.
Can I just chime in
Not
before
that
you guys pack
bad.
it in? Guys, I've been around a long time. Gord's known me since I was young, and he was one of the older guys around at that time.
Be nice.
The rate cutting stuff's been going on a long time. It was
Yeah.
guys like Gord that sort of kept my interest. I got into this really, really young with Rosno Transport. I had my truck, stayed local, did lots of Alberta stuff. You know what? I got tired of it because it felt like everything was falling on deaf ears. And I just feel for the guys that are on the road now because of this COVID stuff. Makes it that much harder because there's that many more deaf ears. And you don't like the idea of playing lip service to people, because at the end of the day, nothing changes. And that's where I got frustrated. And I don't deal well with frustration, and my temper gets up, and then I'm a done deal, right? I'm not fit for misery's company, right? I wish there was something we could do with these companies out there, Flying J, whoever it is, Petro Canada. They need to be taken to the table on this, because you're in the health industry of this stuff, Mike, for the insurance. Or sorry, not Mike. Put my reading glasses on. Aaron. You know what? It's guys like you guys need to step up to these big companies and say something, because ultimately that affects everybody's health from physical to mental. And that's a big thing. And it can't just fall on the ears of 10 people in a Zoom thing. We need somebody to take this upstairs so people hear it and it affects them somehow.
Yeah.
It can't just affect these guys that are trying to get everybody their groceries and their clothing.
And so, Kevin,
that's the end of it, man.
No, I like it. Absolutely true. And I will say this, as a company, they're unique in that way. This is not a photo op to put on a billboard. I've watched Aaron and a friend of his in the company, Glenn. They've been out there for years just constantly raising awareness of where the industry needs to get better and doing what they can do to put pressure on. And so when I said it's good when good people get to work with good people, they're good people. And so we need more. and hopefully this just starts a wave of that. What's the phrase? A 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and that's what we're doing. But this is not deaf ears. We just need more ears, and I'll do my
No, I
best.
know.
And
I understand that, David, but you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
We've been
no, I
talking
do.
about this
I
for
hear
a
you,
long
Kevin.
time, right?
I'm with you. You're
Right.
absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct, my friend. Yeah.
I would like to add one thing on Kevin's last words.
Yeah.
I am personally really concerned about the mental stability after we come out of that COVID.
Yeah.
From not just truck drivers, from the whole society.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Depression, PTSD, and suicide. We haven't even seen the beginning of the results. Hold on tight, guys, because the crime that has skyrocketed is the beginning. And the problem is, I'm not gonna say everything or everybody. The generation that is taking over is not mentally strong enough to overcome obstacles like that. They are not mentally strong enough to overcome depression from being isolated or any other kind of PTSD like that. And I know that from a first hand because since I served, everybody is dealing with their own demons. I just put myself back into the military mode. I just isolate myself and it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't do me any good, but it doesn't hurt me either. So people who are not in the mindset to be able to deal with it, we're gonna see suicides, we're gonna see higher drug addiction, we're gonna see stuff like that we are not even imagining. And the crime rate is the beginning of it.
Yeah. Go ahead,
It's
Mike.
already there, a lot of it already. So
Oh, it was before it was for fun. Before it was we have money, let's blow them. Now it's gonna be suicide through drugs, through suicide through overdose, and it's gonna be alcohol is gonna be the most easiest, or weed is gonna be the easiest drug.
It's
gonna
already
be like
happening. It's just not being reported, but
bingo. And that's the thing that concerns me. We haven't seen any statistics coming out for the last year.
it's all
Where is the
COVID.
suicides coming? Where is the depression levels coming? What is going on to the society?
Yeah.
We are pretty much isolating everybody in their own houses to die on their own. And we don't actually see what's going on out there. And we are experiencing it, but other people are not as used as us to be in a cab for 14 days or 20 days across the country, being on their own and pretty much rely on a phone to talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did that before COVID. We talked to our loved ones through the phone when we're 14 days on the road through the phone.
Yeah.
Like, I know I did it. Quite a few of the guys I bet here done it. Running Alberta or not, you have been on the road more than one night. You have talked to your wife or your kids through the phone. Others don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah, isolation is not new to trucking.
no, that's just another day for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm basically 5 days a week. There's days that I've never come out of the truck. I'm in it basically 24/7, 7 days a week. The only time really I basically, if I can work weekends, I will. The only time you catch me out of the truck basically during the week is when I'm going camping in the summertime. Really is the only time, or at truck shows.
Can I interject here? First off, I want to say hello to Gord, and I want to hope that he is well. He and Whiskey are well. and I saw him the other day, and I hit my high beams, and he ignored me.
You
That's besides.
snuck by me, Mike. You snuck by me. Stealth mode. Hey.
Yeah, I hope you're well, Gord. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to say here, and I want to direct this to Aaron, and I want to direct this to David. Okay, you're hearing our side of the story. You are, both of you, David, you're in a position of journalism, and Aaron, you are in a position of administration. You're there to, you work with an insurance company. This is where the feedback has to get to, because you people with your connections and so on. Somebody said earlier, they're right. This has to get up to the higher levels, not just insurance, not just retailers like Flying J and Pilot, and not just the government, because the government sits on deaf ears. They've got enough to deal with, right? And I like what Raphael said there about, PTSD, depression, suicide. Suicide rate is up now since this COVID happened. Drug addictions, alcoholism, bankruptcy. This is serious shit, if you pardon me. Okay, and it's a problem. It's going to get worse. We haven't seen anything yet, and the powers that be are going to have to. They're going to end up staring this in the face. Okay, if there's a word I can use, it's a crisis that hasn't yet had its full impact, and people are going to find out about this in little small incremental ways. Aaron, you're in the insurance industry. David, you're in journalism, and it's going to come out. And I don't think there's a quick fix for it, but something needs to be done, because you're hearing our side, and something needs to be done. The drivers already know this. We're the infantry down on the battleground.
Yep.
Right? We're the guys coming home to deal with this crap, right? Whether we're doing short haul, whether we're doing long haul, whatever it is that we're doing, we're the ones that are out here doing this. Okay, and it's the wives, it's the families, it's the next generation, it's the media and so on, who don't find out until afterwards. And Raphael had it right on the nose.
I just want to chirp in there, Mike. Aaron, you asked the question or whatever. What's your aspect of it? As somebody that's not you're in the trucking industry a little bit, but a different aspect, even as you as well, David. What's your guys' aspect on it?
Do you want to go, Dave?
Well, one of the things I was thinking about when Mike and Raphael were talking is, society can learn from this room, and can learn from truckers, because Mike, you said it. The answer is not government. The answer is community, and when you're in community, and that brotherhood, which is being threatened by modern environments, but still there. Like, I mean, man, I've said it many times, but this summer I did a photo shoot, and Travis and Kelly, you were there, and just watching you with Kayla and Marie, and the way you support each other, and the way you just, like, it just hit me in the heart. And it was like, when you have that, it doesn't matter what the government does in some ways. Like, there's a big asterisk next to that. And I think that, everyday Canadians can learn from this community around that brotherhood and the power of it to help you get through when everything else around you seems to be going haywire. And that's why I love celebrating it. And that's why, we just need to continue to communicate through it. So bang on with your comments, and you've got what the rest of Canada needs. And it's not necessarily, something that makes it all right. But don't stop being who you are.
Thanks for the forum, David.
Thanks, David, very much.
Yeah. Appreciate it, David.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
And
Yep.
Yeah.
Aaron, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
Oh,
Aaron.
thank you guys for taking the time. Like you say, David, it's baby steps, but just understanding what you guys are going through out there, and there's so many different issues, but we got to look at them one at a time. And I like Kevin's point is, how do we take all this great discussion and create some action and tackle some of these challenges. So that's for me to talk about with David to bring back to our team. And I just love starting this conversation. And yeah, I really appreciate the time tonight, guys.
I want to thank all the drivers for that joined us in that Wow Show Lounge, for taking part and for giving voice to the realities of their experiences on the road. And while they were slightly different, there were some common themes that were hard to listen to. I can't imagine not having access to washrooms or food or showers and having to do the job that you want to commit to and care for in those circumstances. And so many of you have. And so despite all of that, thank you. Thank you. For some of you, that conversation represented your experience during COVID, and for some of you, it did not. If you'd like to share your experience, I'd love to be able to give it a voice. You can email them to david@wowtrucks.com, WOWTRUCKS.com. In life, I've learned this: I can't change the past. And despite the not so nice nature of some of the experiences that we heard, we can't change the past. We can only learn. That's important to do with the past and move forward. And while there are no quick fixes, I want to conclude by looking at where I think the answer does lie. And to me, it lies in two things. Number one, creating an environment that is conducive to positive change. The environment that we are a part of and the environment that we create have a huge impact on people's behaviors, on people's choices. I think it's true that for all of us, the way that we act today in any situation has been largely influenced by our environments of the past, the pains that we felt, the failures that we've gone through, the successes that we've had, our education, our culture. They all come together and they're powerful in determining how we're going to behave in our situations today. And while some of us didn't have a lot of control over our past, depending on our age, the cool thing is that as adults, if we dare have a vision for something different in the future, and I've said this a lot in the show, more than any personal striving that you could do, the environment, the community, the people, places, and things that you place yourself and surround yourself with, your inputs that you choose today will have the biggest impact on what your tomorrows look like and where your tomorrows are spent at. So number one is creating an environment. Number two is offering clear choices for all. What is a choice? It needs to be offered to industry that's providing you service, and there are choices that we need to face as drivers. I said in the intro, control what you do control to influence what you can't. A choice is in any situation knowing what your options are and knowing potentially, not 100% certain, but having a good idea of what the consequences of those choices are. And when we look at creating an environment for industry and for ourselves, the definition of that environment that actually will drive positive change is one where everyone, the people who serve you, your company, your manager, your dispatcher, we all know what we can do. We're given clear choices. We're allowed to choose. We're given control of our own destiny. And there are consequences for our choices because they drive things forward. and it sounds really high level, and I want to bring it down to highway level and dirt level in just a moment. But in concept, the environment that I think that will move this industry in the right direction is one where everyone has clear choices. They're allowed to choose. They're not trying to be controlled. And there are consequences for their choices. You can call me crazy, but I do have a vision where, you know, this care and commitment that so many of you put into your job is returned. Where, you know, as you are out there being knights of the road and showing commitment to what you do and working hard and being influencers of the people that you meet and putting that positive face on trekking, that all of a sudden, you know, there's this wave of, not because there's a crisis, but because of their experiences with you, there's this wave of respect and honor. It is possible. And there are pockets of it today. My mission is to see it grow. So to me, the question is how? So let's go from high level to highway level. 3 things. Number 1, understand the players that are involved to make it happen. What we control, what we don't. Number 2, give industry choices where there are consequences for their choices. Number 3, make choices ourselves. You know, there are 3 choices we can make: good choice, bad choice, running away from choice. I've done all 3. The best choice is a good choice, obviously. The second best choice is a bad choice if you learn from it. And the worst choice is to run away from choices, because the more you try to run away from them, the more they seem to follow you. And we could spend an hour talking about that one, but it's powerful. So let's look at number 1, understanding the players in the game to move industry, the transport industry and trucking into a better place, and what we do and do not control. I mentioned one of them earlier. It's the environment that we're a part of. Our behaviors today have been influenced by our environments of the past. Our behaviors and the behaviors of those around us tomorrow can be influenced by the environments that we create today. I think it's absolutely crucial. And that kind of hinted at the other 2 players. The environment is one player. You are another player. And as I'm talking to myself, it's me. I am another player. We are awesome. That's never in doubt. And the last player is them. So it's the people that we deal with. Our customers, our people that serve us, our people in our company, our friends, our family, all the people that we spend life with, them. And some days they are awesome, some minutes they are awesome, some minutes they are not. It can change drastically over a short period of time, but they definitely do play a role. Now, in the intro, I said our success is going to come, and I believe, and I've seen this and I've lived this, that success in life, if you want a better outcome, if you want trucking to get better, you need to control what you do control to influence what you don't. Because when we try to influence what we don't, we try to control other people, places, and things, we don't tend to get a good response. It's not the way to drive collaboration to make this industry better. How do you feel about being controlled? That's how they feel when you try to control someone else. It's not the solution. So my question is this to you listeners: of those 3 players, yourself, them, or the environment, which do you least control? I'm going to suggest that you don't have control over any of them, total control. You certainly don't control the environment. You don't control COVID. You don't control border openings, closings. You don't control legislation. You don't control any of those things that are part of the environment you're forced to live in today. I get that. And you know what, I'm going to suggest that I'm not in total control of myself. If any of you are, if you're like in 100% control of yourself, please email me. I want to interview for the show, because I haven't met anyone that's in total control. There are still buttons that you can press in me today that have me act in ways and respond and react in ways that I know I shouldn't have done. I'm not in total control of myself. But the question is, which do we least control? And I think the answer, very truthfully, is them, the people around us. And bad things happen when we try to. I think of those stories today, and if we had mentioned names of companies that went along with those particular stories, it would not have been a good thing, because here's the scoop. When we're frustrated about an environment that we're in, the tendency is to want to blame and shame others. And the purpose of this interview is not to shame our industry partners, is not to blame all of those. The behaviors, they're not acceptable, they're not right, and I think everyone agrees on it. But the truth is, part of the solution is having empathy and realizing that some of their actions are not personal as much as they seem. Remember the three players, you, them, and the environment? They're more environmental. I've talked to municipalities and employees in municipalities. I've talked to companies and employees at companies, and the stress that they're under, the ever-changing, changing by the hour legislation around how they have to handle COVID, and the huge fines that are being waved in their face if they get it wrong. I don't agree with how you're being treated by many of them, and it doesn't excuse the behavior. But if we want to be solution oriented, if we want to look forward, we need to recognize the effect that everyone's environment is having on them, and what it can do, instead of driving the people that need to be at the table apart, is have them recognize that there's a common enemy and that we need to come together and talk about these things. So let's move to talking about what it means to give industry choice, to put them in control, because that's where people are happiest. When we try to control people just by blaming them and shaming them and shouting at them what they're supposed to be doing and what they're not doing today, that's not conducive to building relationships that'll affect positive change. It just isn't. It's emotionally what we want to do. I get it. So many of us are frustrated, as are they. Here's, I think, what we can do, and here's where I appreciate NAL's heart, to raise your voice, raise the level of the conversation, share this conversation with people, talk about the experiences that drivers are facing in the industry. I think you have more allies than you realize. They're only silent because they haven't heard. And so a part of giving industry a choice is raising that, and it is on the corporate level, because that is the most efficient and effective. Having transport and people that represent transport talk to major industry suppliers and come together and share what's going on and enter those conversations with the empathy that I talked about, where people on all sides are allowed to talk about what's driving their environments and where their frustrations are. And once those are all on the table, coming together, because I think everyone should want this solution. It benefits everyone involved when drivers are treated with respect. They can come together and determine what can be done. Set some clear expectations, some clear choices that are driven on the reality of everyone's situation and are communicated to everyone that is taking part. And with clear choices can come clear consequences. That if there are suppliers that, refuse to or cannot meet some of those things, that their choices, they're in control, their choices drive, as a owner operator or as a trucking company, drive your purchasing decisions moving forward. It's not a do this or else. It's a like, you know what, I realize we're all under stress. You've outlined yours, and I can't imagine the threat the government's posing to your business if you don't get this right. Here's what our drivers are facing. We've agreed on what can happen. This is the basic level of respect and ways that we can give it to the drivers that are working hard to make this economy run. Here's what you can choose to do. And if you can't, we're going to move our business to where it can go. You heard Kevin talk about because of that, he's taken his trucks off the road. He's sold all of his trucks. And I don't blame him. It may be the answer for some of the companies in this industry that refuse to move forward and adopt positive human resource policies and treat their people with respect. I wish that as more drivers face companies that don't treat them well, that they would simply ask for what they need and what they want. And if they're not being able to get it from that company, that they would, apply a consequence by, as they brought their boots in the door, taking their boots and leaving. If the substandard part of the industry had no one that was willing to work for them, it would cure it in a hurry. It is the answer. And it actually puts control of this industry where it belongs, in the hands of the individual person and driver. Let's give industry choice, not by blaming them, not by shaming them, but by collaborating on a table, understanding environments, and communicating some clear expectations that will drive choices of people in the industry, of who they support. It's cool to support people who support you. So I think giving industry choices is clear. And then there's making choices as a driver as well. And I'm going to ask you to continue to do, I'm going to talk about one choice that you have, and we have a lot of choices that we need to make, but I'm going to talk about one choice that you have that I think many of you do, and that's what we celebrate on Wow Trucks. But I'm going to encourage you, despite the current circumstance, to continue to commit to what you do. Continue to commit to what you do. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for who you are. Continue to commit what you do. You never lose. We never lose in life when we commit. We're not guaranteed the response, and some people will not reciprocate our commitment, but we've talked about that. There's an answer to that. But here's the scoop. In everything you do, be your best, give your best. Because you're going to be there anyways. It's time that you're not spending anywhere. Some drivers think when they don't give their best and they don't be their best, that it reflects badly on the company, that they're angry at, and it's what they deserve. But the truth of that circumstance is, while it does reflect badly on the company they work for, the biggest brand that it affects is your own. And that would be a shame. That would be a shame. You never lose when you commit, when you give your all and be your best and give what you expect from others. The truth is that you will start to win over people wanting to, despite any circumstance, returning that to you. I notice that in every area of my personal life as I go and do business with the grocery store and the post office and the number of places that I do business with, as every once in a while, when I'm not getting the best of service, I show empathy to what their circumstance might be like, and I put myself in their shoes and I talk to them about it, and I am reasonable with them. It's amazing how down the road, when I need a favor, that they come and they bend the rules for me. And they have grace for me and mercy for me, and do all of those things. It was not long ago where there was a case where we didn't bring enough cash for what we wanted to buy, and we didn't have our debit card on us. And the clerk who we had formed a relationship with at a grocery store, we were $1.97 short, put their credit card down and paid the rest for us. It's like, wow, they didn't have to do that. I want an industry where people do things not because they have to, but because they want to. And the best way to get that is to give that. It's what we honor. It is the solution. It's what we control. You control yourself more than you control any of those other things. Can you continue to commit? Because it is the way forward. And I commit to continuing to raise your voice. And companies like NAL and others are coming on board to raise your voice, to make this industry a continuing better place to be a part of. My experience is this: when you commit to others, you build up a brand, and you build up relationships, and you build up a reputation that is such that even if some of them can't return what you want and that relationship might end, it will open up so many opportunities for you that it results in a life that is full, a life that is good, a life that is exciting to live and worth living. So as we close, as always, since 2008, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for what you do. I hope that the sun is shining on your truck and on your soul today. Until next week, until next Monday and the next Wow Show, have a great week. God bless.